Shwadchuck. If you want to come to the table here, Myron, just you can pull that one of the chairs around if you want to face it.
Well, I was also told I could use the lectern.
Certainly.
And, takes me back. Head right back.
And I believe all of council has been presented with a copy of what
Yeah.
you want to speak to this evening. And at this point, I would turn it over to you, Myron.
Thank you very much. And my big reason for the 10-minute thing is that having taught community college as a professor for 30 years, clock watching is something that I notice, and those are generally the people who get Fs from me and don't know why. But anyway, I feel you should take as much time as is necessary for the problem, and when it's a huge problem, you should take a larger amount of time. However, I would like to thank 3 members of the committee who have shown common sense and certainly a little integrity in admitting they hadn't read the bylaw enough to be able to vote on it. That was honest, and that's what I'd like to see. Because in my years of teaching, I've also seen cut and paste documents, and I've certainly seen documents presented to me that weren't necessarily put together by the person that presented it to me. However, I have my suspicions. But just to start, I think public council meetings not presenting the 10-minute opportunity to people is a big mistake, because I remember coming here with the previous mayor and she let me speak. I presented my problem on top of other problems. I don't know how much time she gave me, she didn't limit it, but lo and behold, within 2 weeks she actually solved my problem at my home. The meetings I've been to, and I've been to, although I may have been rude last meeting, I knew I was rude. Meetings I've been to, in general, the people in the meeting want to hear from the people interested enough to come. Why? You might hear some new ideas. They might catch a mistake you're about to make. They might predict the future in such a way that, hey, I've always felt, come on, bring it in, because hey, I'm going to get the credit for it. I'm the guy that's going to say later, this is what we should have done, or this is what we should do, and ta-da, that's success. Okay? And now, I was in a precarious position because although I was coordinator of the graphic design program at Conestoga College for 30 years, my tenure was like 1 year each year. And my position was ratified every single year. So I had to be successful every year to be renominated for that position. And if any of you have heard about that program, you'll know it was a very successful program with over 90% employment at all times. However, I find that the public council may not have noticed that public means that your voters, now I took this because in your drafts you have definitions of things which people need to know. Public is your voters and your taxpayers, and they provide that budget that you just spent on this wonderful device, which I like. We might be able to watch the hockey game later. Okay? I'm not saying it was wrong. All I'm saying is it came from over here. Every penny. Okay? And I pay $5,000 for my urban property, which has 450 pine trees on it and the length of the Maitland River, covered with geese from the conservation area. And I believe those geese quite likely belong to the township. They don't worry about my health and the deposits that the geese leave. However, this is your public, this is also your tax base, this is also your budget base, this is where your money comes from. Civil servants, wonderful people, willing to spend their time to help the public in a manner that's in keeping with the wishes of the public. okay? And what the public wants for their township. What's the township? It's where we live, it's our homes, it's our properties. That's all we want. And I shell out money, you shell out money, doesn't matter how much. It all goes over here and it gets split up. Now, last time there was no 10-minute meeting, and I'm afraid I lost it. I'll break a law if I have to, if it's that silly. I have to say that 10 minutes wasn't enough. And I had to say I have a right to speak, for crying out loud, for $5,000, 10 minutes? Thanks. Anyway, so you understand that the township is our homes and property, and you are public servants, and probably wonderful ones. I just haven't figured that one out yet. I've talked about the meetings I've attended, and I've talked about the fact that any input is always precious, because you could have some weirdo sitting there, and believe me, I can clean up pretty good. I got a lot of shirts and ties. I threw out most of them, including my watch, the day I retired. Now, here's a suggestion I believe is both sensible and possibly constructive. Exclusion for all registered pet groups and fostering volunteers in our township that provide shelter and care for discarded pets. This is only helping our animal control officer, who's going to have an enormous load of possibilities after I look at these 2 pages of highly technical zoological terms. Animals that, in the names that they've used, most of us don't know. I guarantee none of you know all of them. I guarantee I don't know all of them. And I researched a couple of them. I had to figure out what a coatimundi was, because I'd heard the word before. But there's some animals in here that God helped our officer, because if he sticks his hand in the mailbox and grabs the wrong spider, like I say, God help him. Now, on the other hand, if he comes into my property, and I'm not an animal lover, by the way. I'm not crazy about pythons. I don't understand why people like cold-blooded reptiles. But if it's not the animal you think it is, and you take it away and dispose of it, euthanize it, so to speak, which is bad karma, because there are people out there that believe we come back as these animals. I hate to come back as a python that got euthanized because I was in the wrong yard. But I suspect some of the python stories are urban myths, because python stories are the biggest pile of urban myths that you can hear. However, my point is there's people out there, registered people, that want to take in dogs and find homes for them. This has got to help Bob, because he's got less to catch, less to kill. These people will fix the dogs, find suitable homes, do whatever is necessary, but they can't do it in 7 days. And your bylaw says you can only keep a dog at home for 7 days if it's not yours. So let's be reasonable. If you've got a reputable group of people, you know they're reputable, because if they aren't, within minutes, you're going to hear about the nasty things they've done.
Myron, we're down to about 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I know how time flies. It's,
Okay. All right, well, all I'm saying is I'm helping him. If you could hold off your questions until I'm finished my 10 minutes. I brought you a gift from the public. It's a nail about this long, but I thought you might take it as a threat or something, just for your gavel in case you needed it, because then you could build something as well. Okay? But, I threw it out because I know it could be misinterpreted. Okay, very simple. I don't understand why Bluevale has a 2-dog limit. I understand why they came into effect initially, because there were herds of cattle and dogs roaming loose and killing cattle and what have you. But at this point, how come Listowel, Huron, Kinloss, Waterloo, and Bluewater can allow 3 dogs? How can Bluewater do a 5-page bylaw and it takes us 21? Who did this bylaw? Who actually produced it? You say the council. I'm afraid I say I don't believe that. Somebody here pasted it together. You'll have to trust my 30 years of experience in looking at documents that students have patched together. And certainly things I've patched together myself, of which I could do a very excellent job. I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be more sensible to say what area of property you have? Perhaps you can only have 200 pounds of dog on a half acre, or 2 dogs on a half acre. You got a full acre, whatever. I doubt very much if any of you have actually lived in an urban community. And I'm talking urban where I'm not worried about the python next door. I'm worried about the guy with the pit bull and the 9mm in his back pants. You know, that'll give you something to worry about. I've been in those communities. And although you don't want me to talk, I've been in a position where people pay me $100 an hour to give them advice. And for some reason, when they give me $100 an hour, they kind of value what I got to say. I know what I look like. I look like this for a specific reason. You know, I like to piss people off, because people piss me off sometimes.
So Myron, I hate to interrupt, but
I know, but see, this is where I gotta break another law. If you want to call a cop, go right ahead, because I'll go to jail if I have to. You tell me 2 teacup chihuahuas equal a couple of Dobermans in Bluevale. How is that sensible? You know, like, what are the teacup chihuahuas going to do? I know what the Doberman's going to do to me. I don't like chihuahuas. I'm not crazy about Dobermans. Well, what are you doing? And why 2? Why not 3 like Listowel? Are we not as good as Listowel?
is there one last point you'd like to make with this?
Yes. The final point, and I'll jump over, well, it's 2 points, you know, and if you could bear with me. One is, you have to understand, and I came to this country 60 years plus ago. Why? Because when a man named an officer by somebody came to the door, they could take my dog, my brother, possibly my uncle, to the front yard and shoot him. My mother's brother was shot by a man named an officer. By who? By somebody supposedly voted into power. I didn't come to Canada for this. And I came to Canada a long time ago. If there's such a problem with our bylaws, maybe it's time to bring the ombudsman into the situation. Okay? Because I think there's some illegal search and seizure going on here in what you've written. Nobody will tell me who the author of the bylaws is. Fair enough. Now, the last thing is urban areas. My street, I have 3.5 acres. Paving ends before my house. So does the plow. So I get a big pile of snow in front of my house. I have to take care of my own excrement. I get no water from the city. I get nothing from the city except one light, and there's no fire hydrant anywhere in Bluevale. How are you calling that urban? You know, it's just not urban. It's as country as you can get. It's why I came here. And it used to be, and I still get mail from rural Route 2, and now it's specified as, and this is the beauty, it's SS1. SS1. You ask anybody in the post office, including management, and nobody can tell you what the hell SS1 means, including the mail deliverers. I swear to you, I've asked the lady at the boxes. I've asked the lady at the post office. She's gone to our manager. They've designated it as that. Nobody knows what it is, and I guarantee none of you know what it is. Now, that's not me being crazy. That's some stupidity going on there. You know, call me rural route anything. I don't care, but I'm at the end, I got 3.5 acres, the guy next to me's got 4, the guy next to him has got 5, the guy over here's got 4, none of them are home because they're all truckers. I'm the only guy there, and I'm surrounded by more land than all of Bluevale, and you're telling me I can only have 2 dogs. I don't care about dogs that much, I'm a cat person, you know, and I don't have any cats. But it's just, I'm not in a rural area, or a urban area. And I don't think, I know most of you are hardworking people, but I doubt any of you have lived in Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, any of those places. You haven't lived there. You don't know what real urban is. Waterloo lets you have more dogs.
Chickens.
They just do. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, I think my property should be called rural. And I'm not going to bug you, and I appreciate you not banging your gavel, because I know I'm going over time. But come on, 10 minutes on one page. Who reads that fast? Now, if I could read that fast, that's fine. But who in this room thinks that fast? Jesus, I spent 4 hours trying to get a message across to 40 students. They don't get it in 10 minutes. They don't get it in 10 weeks. Okay? Now, if I'm crazy, that's fine. I look crazy, that's fine. I don't care. But if you guys pass this thing, trust me, I'm already written up in some blog, the Huron Info or whatever, identified and stated as what I did last time. And believe me, I didn't even try to get into that. But they suggest that I'm going to do some kind of whatever. Well, I know that you only got 54% or so voters out last year. But I will stand at the voting booth and I will talk to every person that comes in, whether they think I'm crazy or not. Those of you that have some integrity, and I know some of you do, are fine. But I had a man come from this group, probably, come to my door and tell me what he was going to do when he got into council. And I looked him in the face and I said, if you don't do those things, you be ready for me to come to the council. Now maybe he's not here, or maybe he doesn't remember that, or maybe he didn't get voted in. But you asked for our votes, you got our votes, you got our money. All we want is the place to look like we would like it to look. And how many of you live in Bluevale?
I do.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you care if there's 3 dogs at the end of Orange Street that
Yes.
you never see?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because why should one person have more more abilities than another?
Everybody should have 3. I'm not saying anybody else. But why should the guy next to you have 3 Dobermans and I have 3 teacup Chihuahuas? Do you find that equal? I don't have Chihuahuas. You know, I'm not a dog person. But like, where's the equality? I'm just saying, why do we have 2 and all the other municipalities seem to have 3? They picked a different number. You know, the lucky number 3. 2 just has no, I don't think you have a reason for 2. I think it's just been 2.
In the settlement areas, that's where the problems with the dogs are. And the problems arise when there's seemingly more than 2 dogs. You know, the limited area, it's a higher intensity. And that's where the 2 number has come from. It's the direction that these more rural communities, municipalities are moving to. Yes, there's some still have 3, but the trend is to go down to the number of 2.
Well, in the
2
urban
less than-
centers, like Waterloo, you can live in an apartment with 3.
That's.
Would you want to do that? I wouldn't want to do that.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to have the guy next door with 3 dogs.
But that's the reasoning behind that, where that number is.
Well, I don't think it's reasonable, and I know that you're afraid of lawsuits. Everybody's afraid of lawsuits. But I think if you enact those last 2 pages with, this is priceless. This is too priceless to pass up. Wow, I mean, we all have arachnophobia, but I won't use that word. Oh, I'll forget that. I was just gonna ask anybody here if they knew what kind of animal that was by its scientific name, but I read that Bob's got permission to shoot bears in Godrich. Okay? And he's been trained to do that. I don't know how he's been trained to do that, but what I'm afraid of is, what if I'm in my 450 pine forest and he mistakes me for a bear? It's not hard to do. What if I'm floating down the Maitland on my back and he thinks I'm a whale? I mean, I'm not knocking
I like
him,
him.
but he's got to recognize what that is. If he picks the wrong animal, he'll get sued.
Myron, you realize we have to have, in a circumstance where there's danger to the public, we have to have an individual in place to look after these situations.
Okay,
In my experience, the police are not equipped and should not be the individuals looking after the animal.
from what I read in Godrich, the bears were seen on a beach. Okay? My son lives in BC. I've walked out of a bar with him in BC and had a bear as close as her tumbling around with 2 RCMP officers chasing them, none of them with guns drawn. You know, God help you if he's not accurate. Because if he doesn't kill the bear first shot, he better pull out his Bowie knife. But what I want to know is, what if he misses and hits somebody else?
But I think this is a situation, there may be a bear somewhere, but it has to be a situation where it's causing, it can harm.
I agree with you.
So, just a sighting doesn't mean that there's someone going to head off and shoot the animal. It's not causing any
Okay, but
situation.
there's common sense there. And do we need 21 pages of hard and fast rules? You really think so?
The problem is, if you haven't got on paper what you need to deal with circumstances ahead of time, to put that in place afterwards does not work.
Okay, but if you have it in paper, you better stick to that and be correct. Because then you've just put out a piece of paper that limits you in court. You can't change it. You've said this and this and this and this, it better be correct.
And that's the part of the process, the idea of this will go off, if we get through and draft, a final draft, it will go off for our legal counsel, be looked at, and, has to be correct.
Okay, but does Bob have I don't want to knock him, but does he have zoological training? Does he have veterinarian training? This is all required in most municipalities to be an animal control officer.
And I'm not sure, why is that a requirement?
Well, how the hell do you know what kind of snake you're dealing with if you have nothing in zoology?
There was an issue with a snake in a settlement area in the last week, I believe it was, and M&R was sent away, to get a handle on exactly what it was and what we were dealing with.
Okay.
So we have the resources.
But it doesn't
in place.
get...
Bob is part of those resources.
I've faced a rabid raccoon closer than you are in my backyard, and nobody's gonna come. I can down 911 till I'm blue in the face. That raccoon's gonna bite me well before anybody shows up. These things are all after the fact is what happens.
Well, I think in this part of the world, you realize not to put yourself in that position to back away, and if there's been a sighting of something rabid, it's reported.
Well, there's a good bylaw. If anybody sees any kind of animal or whatever, report it immediately. That's fair enough. I'm not against your bylaws. I just think they're overdone, and I think they put you at risk. Because where the hell is a rhinoceros going to come from? Unless somebody's deciding to build a zoo. And I hope none of you have an interest in that.
And the idea of some of these things, it seems quite silly to have that in there.
Well,
But what we've done, we've put together a list of prohibited animals, and then the next clause is to allow those with an exemption, But you have to prove to the municipality that you have the correct environment for that species to live in. You have the financial and physical abilities to look after that animal, and you know what you're doing.
Okay. but
So,
it's-
you know, I don't know of
Financial abilities?
where you would put a whale in.
I'd have
the
to build
Maitland-
an
in Huron
aquarium.
County. In Huron County, the Maitland isn't deep enough.
Well, that's what I was trying to suggest.
Whatever.
Because then you'd come after me for the beached whale. And if you mistook me for the beached whale, which was easy to do,
But if
I'd be
someone,
upset. So would
if
my
someone
wife.
is attempting to keep that, we have something in place there to deal with. That's a very simplistic example of what's taking place.
But you're putting Bob in a ridiculous position because he comes to my house. I don't care why. He's not crossing that doorstep. He can if he wants to, but he's not getting my permission. So he has to go get the police officer. Fair enough. The police officer will not cross the boundaries. He won't even, shouldn't drive down my driveway until he's gone and got a judge to sign a warrant. Okay? All that effort. He gets the warrant, he comes to my place. That warrant better be for the correct thing. Because if he comes through my house and there's no such thing there, I'm suing. Just like I would if I was, you know, a drug dealer or something, which I'm not. Please. But, you know, if you come in, break down my door with a warrant, that's fine. But that warrant better be accurate, or you're in trouble.
And this is quite a hypothetical situation.
But
right?
why do we need Bob? Why can't we just call OPP? And then they can get the warrant immediately and they can be at my household sooner.
It's two different issues. That Bob is looking after animal control. The OPP is keeping the peace in our communities. So, Myron, I think you've done a very good job of making your point. And,
Well, all I can say is if a bullet comes through my window and it's aimed for a bear, I will be shooting out that same hole. And I can hit the side of a barn. I hope he can as well. Because if he's going to shoot at bears, he better kill them right off the bat. Because you don't want to handle a bear that's wounded. Or a beached whale. We need George Costanza, who's a marine biologist. Anyway, I'm sorry to drag everybody's time out, but that's just the kind of guy I am. So if you want to think I can use the words, because they use them on TV. If you want to think I'm an asshole, that's fine. But if you let this kind of stuff get ahead of you, it becomes worse and worse and worse. Power corrupts.
Myron,
You've all seen it.
we're going to need to move on.
Yes, we will. I'm finished.
Thank
Thank you
very
for your time. I appreciate you not using your gavel. I truly do.
much. We'll ask Vicki Carter to come forward at this